With just 3 days until the start of the brand new Premier League season and 3 weeks left of the window itself, Arsenal Football Club are under massive pressure to deliver in the transfer window. So today I will be joined by Arsenal journalist Charles Watt, asking him what exactly is going on behind the scenes. So fasten your seatbelts and enjoy this special episode of The Transfers FC. Yo, what is going on guys? My name is Babs14 and welcome back to your boys channel. It is a special episode today, so as per, I'd massively appreciate if you guys can go down there and smash a like on the video, and while you're down there, please do consider subscribing to your boys channel as we are on the road to the massive gargantuan 60,000 subscribers. But without any further ado, let's see what Mr. Charles Watt is saying. Right, yo lads, your boy is here with the main man, Mr. Charles Watt. Charles, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad, how are you?
I'm alright as well, but we're all we're all anticipating the Arsenal transfers. You know, we know that you know about your Arsenal transfers. You are a very good reporter and very good at what you do. You've also got a very good YouTube channel, so if you want to follow Charles on that channel or on his Twitter pages, then the links will be down below in the description. There's 3 days left until the start of the brand new Premier League season. Are there any potential signings that could be, maybe not completed by then, but we might hear about that's close to completion in that period of time?
I doubt it. I have to say, not from what I've heard, that anything's about to suddenly spring up and be done, apart from maybe Joe Willock going out. But in terms of players coming in, I've got to say right now, at the start of this window, I had a pretty clear idea in my head of exactly what they were going to do and who they were going to be looking at. And right now, as it stands, it all feels a little bit unclear exactly what Arsenal are trying to do in this window. I know they're definitely going to bring in a goalkeeper. I mean, that will happen. They're definitely going to try and bring in an attacking midfielder, creative player. Whether that will definitely happen, I don't know. It depends if they can get who they want, and if they can't get who they want, it kind of depends on if they decide to really push ahead with whoever's second and third choice on that list. A lot of it might depend on Martin Odegaard and what Real Madrid are going to do with him over the next few weeks. No one's decided that yet, so it's hard for me to answer in terms of how close anything is to happening, because right now, as it stands, I don't think anything's absolutely on the line of being done. But I mean, this is football, this is transfers. We saw with Danny Ings and Aston Villa, it can happen like that out of the blue, and without anyone even being linked. So just because I don't know that something's about to happen doesn't mean that it won't. But certainly the signs I'm getting and the word I'm getting at the moment is that it's looking unlikely, certainly before Friday anyway.
So you said it was almost a clear plan at the start of the window. Do you have any sort of idea what that was in terms of positions potentially, or what profile of player they were targeting?
Yeah, well, the profile was pretty clear. You look at the players they've already brought in. That is the kind of profile of the player. They want to build a young squad. They've already got a young squad. They want to add to that. Not necessarily saying that every single player they sign has to fit that bill of sort of 21 to 23 and up and coming. If a decent experienced player comes up, then I'm sure they probably would try and get that one done. Potentially, even the right back. We've seen a link with Kieran Trippier recently. Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard that that's the case. But if a decent player comes up, they might go for it. But that was certainly the profile: a young squad that they can kind of build with the likes of Saka and Smith Rowe over the next few years to try and get them back to where they think where they do belong. This is Arsenal. It's definitely where they belong.
Yeah, we are gargantuan, so we need to be back at the top.
Exactly. And in terms of the positions, I mean, it's not really a secret. They wanted a right back, they wanted a central midfielder, they wanted an attacking midfielder, they wanted a goalkeeper, they wanted a centre back. They got the centre back in that they wanted. They've got the cover for Kieran Tierney that they wanted. They got a young midfielder that they wanted, I think. But the window has just been so difficult, and everyone's saying it, and it's the case. Everyone who speaks for Arsenal, the agents I speak to, it's just not got going. You've had a couple of really big moves, specifically from the clubs who don't really have to worry about money too much.
Cool, Charles. We're going to move on to the goalkeeper now, and we're going to start off with Bernd Leno. Is there any possibility of him leaving, or is he 100% nailed on to stay now?
I think he's nailed on to stay. I'd be surprised this late on in the window if you suddenly move on your number one. I mean, I think they'll bring someone in. Well, they will bring someone in. They can't not. But I think even if it is Ramsdale, it would be probably to compete with Leno for a season. Then possibly Leno will go out at the end of the season next summer, and he'll possibly get a move on. But I'd be very surprised now this late on in the summer if Leno went.
Were you on the Andre Onana case probably a couple months ago? Obviously that hasn't gone through, and we know the reasons why, but maybe could you explain to why that might have fallen through, or why Arsenal might have not really followed through in their interest?
I think they're probably a little bit disappointed in the the ban and the level foot was reduced, the fact that they were hoping maybe they would be able to use him at the start of the season, the fact that didn't happen, it's kind of turned them off him a little bit. I mean, people around him are surprised because they were really sort of pushing it before, and there was a lot of belief that he was going to end up at Arsenal, and then suddenly they've gone very, very cold on it and haven't been back in touch really since the court case verdict was given. And like he's going to be going elsewhere now. And I'm surprised, I've got to say. I mean, I think Onana's a good goalkeeper. You've got a potential absolute bargain there. Yes, you won't be able to play him for a few months, but you can possibly get through that right now. Clearly looks like they've moved on to other targets. I mean, we know they are interested in Ramsdale. But yeah, I'm surprised, and I know people close to Onana are surprised at it as well.
In terms of Ramsdale specifically, a lot of Arsenal fans are also very surprised. They don't quite understand what Arsenal see in the keeper, and I kind of tend to agree with that as well. I mean, is there something that as Arsenal fans are missing that we don't know about Ramsdale, that why Arsenal would want him?
No, not really. I mean, look, I think Ramsdale's a decent enough goalkeeper. And yes, he's been relegated 2 seasons in a row. I mean, that's not great to have on your CV, but he has also been player of the season in both those seasons for the clubs. He's not a terrible goalkeeper. You know, is he worth 30 million for me? No, I would not be spending that sort of money on Aaron Ramsdale. It doesn't really make too much sense to me. Clearly, if they do that, they believe he's good enough, and we hear that Inaki Kana, the goalkeeping coach, is kind of pushing it. I don't know if that's the case or not. That's certainly the narrative that's been pushed out. We know that he pushed for Alex Runnison to come in, and that certainly hasn't worked out. Yeah, I mean, he's a decent goalkeeper. You ask people around Sheffield United, they think he's a very, very good goalkeeper, and they are saying we're not going to give him away for cheap, but £30 million. I don't know. I think there's got to be better options out there. Your scouting department's got to be a little bit better than opting to spend 30 million on Aaron Ramsdale.
Now, we've still got Hector Bellerin, and there have been some reports claiming that he could be given a new contract. Do you have anything to comment on that?
No, I haven't heard it myself. I've seen the reports, but in terms of Bellerin getting a new deal, I mean, I know what's going on with Granit Xhaka, but in terms of Hector Bellerin, I haven't heard he's been offered a new deal yet. And from what I understood anyway, he wasn't going to sign a new deal if one was offered, and that had been made clear. So I'd be surprised, but then again, if they're looking to potentially protect an asset, they realise that the market's so slow this year, and they're potentially thinking, well, next year it might pick up again. So if he signed, we could sell him for a bit more next season, but I'm not sure Bellerin would be too keen on that. I think all parties understand that he's kind of come to the end of his time at Arsenal, and everyone was expecting him to go. I thought he was nailed on to Leeds this summer. I'm really surprised he's still here, but they can't find buyers for these players at the moment, and unless they want to give them away, and Arsenal, they've done that in the past. But Bellerin, he's still mid-20s, he's a Spain international, still got a couple of years left on his contract. It's kind of dereliction of duty if you just give him away for next to nothing. So you can understand why they want to get a decent amount of money in.
If Bellerin is to stay, does that mean that we won't go and sign a right back? Because even when Bellerin was linked to moves away, we weren't really linked to any other right backs of note. I mean, I've heard players like Max Aarons, I've heard fans push over Riddle Baku. Are there any right backs that Arsenal have been looking at that you were aware of?
Oh, I don't think they can sign a new right back if Bellerin doesn't go, because you've got 3 at the club already, and you've got to, I just don't think you can really bring in another right back unless at least one of them leaves. If you've got Cedric, I know that Fenerbahce have been interested in him. Cedric doesn't want to go. He's happy at Arsenal, although he wants to be playing more. You got Bellerin, you got Callum Chambers, who ended last season's first choice right back. Just don't know how, when you've got no European football, you can bring in and suddenly have 4 right backs in a squad. It's just not doable for me. So I don't see how they can possibly do that. And I haven't heard any names. The whole summer has been bereft of names. That's why I was starting the season. If you said to me straight away, what's the one position you think Arsenal are definitely going to strengthen? Right back would be one of the first things out of my mind. And it just hadn't happened. And I've never had anyone in any conversation I've had with anyone that has actually given me a name. So, potentially it's just not going to happen now. But I wouldn't say, I hate saying it's not going to happen now with 3 weeks left in the window, because anything can happen. But it's beginning to look more unlikely. But
in terms of potential outgoings, now nothing's been reported so far, but in Rob Holding, we've got a centre-back who is no longer going to be our first choice right-sided centre-back. And I've heard Rob wants to play for England at the World Cup. Could there be a possibility of Rob potentially leaving if an offer was to arrive?
Well, it'd have to be a good offer. Rob Holding played more than anyone else last season. So just because Ben White's arrived, I wouldn't say it's certainly he's going to head out the door. I think he'll still play plenty of football. Yes, the Callum Chambers is there, but Arteta clearly sees Callum at the moment more of a right back than a centre back. So one injury to Ben White and suddenly you're scratching around again. Arsenal haven't got that many centre backs. Not like the beginning of last season when they had 8. They've not got that many. So I'd be surprised, but if someone knocks on Arsenal's door in this situation and whacks down 25 million and says, look, we want to sign her on holding, then I think Arsenal, as they are doing with Joe Willock, would find that very hard to turn down.
Now, we've kept Xhaka. It looks like he's going to sign a brand new contract. But in terms of now Thomas Partey being injured at the start of the season, what do you reckon Arsenal will do? We've obviously got Albert Sambi-Lokonga. Is he going to be the almost replacement for Partey for now? Or are Arsenal potentially going to go into the market and look to sign a first-team central midfielder?
I mean, I'd be surprised now Xhaka's staying. When he was going, they were absolutely going to do that, 100%. But now that Xhaka's staying, I think they're probably thinking we're going to commit the money that we would have spent there elsewhere. And Congo looked very, very good against Tottenham, and I'm very happy that he played ahead of El Neni. They've still got El Neni, so I'd be surprised now if they went in for another first choice centre back, because Partey's not like he's out long term. He's out, he's going to be back in 3 weeks' time. Fingers crossed. With this little amount of time left in the window and so much to do in other areas, I'd be surprised now if they went out and signed another central midfielder.
But in terms of, you did mention Lucas Torreira though. A lot of fans are a bit perplexed of what's happening there. I think he's currently in Spain, but I think maybe that's because of a quarantine period and COVID. But in terms of Torreira himself, is there a possibility that Arteta could give him a lifeline, or is it if an offer comes in he has to go?
Oh, he'll go if an offer comes in. I mean, he wants to go. Arsenal are quite happy to let him go. It's just not worked out, is it? Lucas Torreira is pretty clear. He's not really settled in England. He's never settled in England, and he wants to, and he will go if a decent offer comes in from someone. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going out on loan again, to be honest, because I think they're going to struggle to get a big bid in for Torreira. Can't really see him being an option for Arteta next season. I think once he gets back to England, they'll sit down with him, they'll work out exactly what he wants to do and what they can do, and try and get a move sorted before the end of the window. Fair
enough. Right, we're going to move into, for me, the most important position in my opinion, and that's the attacking midfield. A lot of fans want to know who's going to be the attacking midfielder, who's going to be the creative goal-scoring attacking midfielder Arsenal sign. You've got the names Maddison, you've got Odegaard as well. I've heard Houssem Aouar. I've even heard young Yacine Adli, who plays in France as well. But let's start off with Big Maddis, James Maddison. Apparently, according to the AFCBL, he's our main target. What are your thoughts on a whole Maddison transfer, and do you think it's a possibility of actually happening?
I think it's a possibility of it happening. I don't think it's close by any means. And from what I've not heard anything to suggest there's been any real official dialogue between Arsenal and Leicester. Everything that's going on is going on behind the scenes, and we're not at the stage of actual, bids being made, talks between the clubs to trying to get deals done. It's all sort of agents, intermediaries, and we're at that sort of level. I still think, for me, if Real Madrid suddenly turned around now and said, we will sell you Martin Odegaard, or you can have Martin Odegaard this season, that's where Arsenal will go over James Maddison. But, they've got to have other options on the table. And, Maddison is certainly a player they like. I know that the interest is definitely genuine there in Maddison, but it's just a very hard deal to get done because the financials that are going to be involved in it. Leicester are in a really strong position. We'll say it will be very similar to Brighton and Ben White. Brighton had a number. Arsenal ended up having to meet it to get him. Leicester will have a number and Arsenal ended up having to meet it. And if they don't, then Maddison's going to play for Leicester. So I still feel, as it stands, that Odegaard would possibly be the more likely option out of the two. It's neck and neck. And like I said at the start of this, in terms of it's very unclear exactly what they're going to do in these next few weeks. But if you tied me down and dragged a name out of me right now, I'd probably err on the side of Odegaard over Maddison. Wow. But we'll see. We'll wait and see.
It's the hope that kills you as an Arsenal fan, as they've said. But
who do you want out of those two?
Oh, for me, it's Maddison. And I've said that because in terms of Odegaard, he's a fantastic young player. I've got nothing against him, but we need a final action player, someone to make that final pass, get that goal, to get the assist. And I think Smith Rowe and Odegaard are pretty similar in that aspect of they're great link-up players and keeping the attack flowing. But to make that final pass, you look at Man United and look at Bruno Fernandes. I think Maddison has a similar profile to that. So for me, I'm always been I call him James on this channel. I don't call him James, right? I'm a James Maddison fan. But listen, okay, it might have to be Odegaard.
I agree with you. I think I'd prefer Maddison. I think he's going to give you more goals, which is the key thing. I'm not sure. Odegaard, you might get 4 or 5 goals a season out of. I think Maddison, you're pushing 10 goals, and Arsenal clearly need that. Honestly, I still like the idea of Houssem Aouar. I think Aouar's got a big ceiling, and I think he can score goals, he can set goals up. It'd be half the price. I know it comes with a lot of baggage, and last summer, there was a lot of issues behind the scenes with trying to get Aouar done, but he's available, he's half the price. I wouldn't be totally against that, but yeah, I agree with you. I think out of everyone, I'd very much like to see Maddison at the Emirates.
Are there any other names that we should be keeping an eye on just in case, the other transfers were to fall through?
No, well, not that I've heard of. I think certainly those are the two sort of key attacking midfielders that could be on the agenda. They might pull a surprise out of the bag, but they're certainly the two that I would say now it might end up being between. I saw you mentioned Yacine Adli there. I don't know if I know they were very interested in signing him when Emery was here, but I saw he's being linked yesterday, but I'm not sure if there's anything in that. And you can't, he's he's young again. Adli, very inexperienced. I'm not sure he's going to come in and make a massive immediate impression on the first team if he does come in. I think that's kind of what you want if Arsenal bring in someone in this summer.
Right, Charles, as you mentioned, centre forwards, strikers. Let's talk strikers, right? Let's start off with the departures. Eddie Nketiah and Alexandre Lacazette. Let's start off with Nketiah.
Well, Nketiah, he's for sale. It's just a case of if a club comes in for him. I think the injury isn't going to help at this stage of the window because not due back to training for a month, ready to play for 6 weeks. So that might put off some clubs. He's been available window. Nothing's happened yet. Brighton have been linked. Makes sense to me, Brighton. It's just a case of if a decent offer comes in for him or not. And, they want to sell him, but nothing's happened yet, as is the case in pretty much all the positions of the players they wanted to sell. They've just been unable to do it. But I think Eddie will probably I think before the injury, I'd have said he would definitely have gone. I don't know, the injury might put some clubs off. I just don't know what they're thinking now. If you're going to spend sort of 10, 15 million, I mean, what do you think for Nketiah? 10, 15 million? With
1 year left on his contract, definitely 10 to 15.
I think the injuries come at a really bad time for him and for Arsenal, to be honest.
And what about Alexandre Lacazette?
Well, he's in the same position, and it's just not happened in terms of finding a buyer for him. 1 year left on his deal. You want to sell him at this point and lose him on a free, but they've been unable to do that now, and it just really stops them in terms of bringing in another striker, because suddenly you're going to have, Lacazette's one of those top earners. If you bring another striker in ahead of him, then you've got Lacazette you're paying all that money to for another year that you're not playing or is barely getting a sniff. So it's just a really difficult situation for Arsenal. But I wouldn't absolutely rule it out happening between now and the end of the window. But again, we're running out of time, and they've spent all summer trying to find a buyer for him and have not been able to do it. So it's looking more and more unlikely now that it's going to happen. And that, as I said, I think will stop them definitely bringing in a new forward. I'd be surprised if Lacazette stays, if a new one comes in, unless Eddie goes as well, maybe.
Okay, let's just say hypothetically one was to go then, so it opens up space then. Who are Arsenal talking? I know we've been linked to Tammy Abraham, of course. Reports in Italy linked to Lautaro Martinez as well. And you've also got now young Serbian centre forward Dusan Vlahovic. So let's start off with Tammy Abraham. I mean, how genuine is his interest, and is it a possibility that Arsenal could sign him in this window?
There's definitely interest in Tammy Abraham, 100%, and Tammy's pretty keen to come to Arsenal, I've been told as well. But he's an Arsenal fan, which so it's no surprise. But
who is
very true. But again, would Chelsea prefer to move him on somewhere else? It seems like they prefer to move him on to Italy, and it seems like Roma are certainly in a position to commit some decent money on the table for Tammy Abraham, and at the moment Arsenal aren't really. So it's looking more and more likely he might end up in Italy. But there is interest there from Arsenal. There is definitely interest in Martinez as well. But again, it's just the money. It's just stopping it. It's very hard. How do you sign Lautaro Martinez at the moment if you're Arsenal? It's just, and you've sold no player. Yeah, they haven't brought in £1 yet this transfer, and they've spent 75 million already. So it's really hard, and you're competing against clubs who clearly do have the financial power to do it. Tottenham are trying. It's looking. I don't see how he arrives at this stage unless something pretty significant changes in the next few weeks.
I mean, you said it yourself there. We haven't actually got anything in so far, and why is that? I mean, we had so many players that were meant to go. Xhaka was one, Bellerin others, and you had Nketiah, you had obviously Willock about to go now, so we're going to get some money there. Why have Arsenal really struggled to sell these players?
I think they're not that appealing, a lot of them, and B, the market. The market is not just Arsenal. You look everywhere. No, there's been very, very few deals done this summer for any sort of significant money. It's just not happening. No one's got any money. Everyone's skinned. And, in the middle of a global pandemic, football finances have absolutely crashed. And so no one's got any cash in England or around the world. You've got, the Granit Xhaka example was a perfect point, Roma. Just, you're not going to go around spending money that you don't think a player's worth at the moment. And they clearly don't think he was worth what Arsenal wanted. And so they didn't spend it. And it's the same with Bellerin. There was interest in Bellerin, but everyone wanted to do it on loan for Arsenal. That doesn't work. So what do you do? Certainly a sellable asset. Well, the one I'm surprised they haven't sold Ainsley Maitland-Niles yet. I thought he's a very sellable asset. He's young, he's English, he's good. He can play in a few positions. He had a decent loan spell at West Brom, even though they went down. I'm surprised that they haven't been able to get a good chunk of money for him. I'm not talking about 25 million or anything like that at this stage, but 10, 12, 15. Yeah, it's just been a really difficult window to get players out, and you only have to look at bank balances of clubs across the country, Europe, to understand why.
Obviously, also another way of financing is possible from other clubs is owners. And after the whole Super League fiasco and all that stuff, a lot of Arsenal fans thought maybe potentially the owners might invest some money to kind of appease the fans, give some signings, and help the team push forwards. Is that still a possibility? And if not, why is that not the case?
Because it's Stan Kroenke. Yeah. Simple as that.
That's the answer. Yeah,
he doesn't put money in. He never put money in, and he never will put money in. Yes, they might find a way of moving money around or borrowing money, which the club can spend, like they have done recently. And some of the deals, they've invested fairly heavily in the last few windows. They've invested fairly heavily this window, 75 million, like I said, without bringing any money in. That's not Stan putting his hand into his pocket. It's him. They took out the loan from Barclays. They move money around that can become available. Obviously, all that 75 million has not been spent now. He's sort of spending a bit of it now and then spreading the rest over the next few years. But Kroenke's not going to put his own money in. I mean, how long's he been here? And he's never done it. He's not going to suddenly change. He just doesn't do it. And so, anyone who expects Stan Kroenke to suddenly throw £250 million on the table and say, "Yeah, go and do what you want with that," it's just not going to happen. Never in a million years. Coming
towards the end of the window now, I think we've got 3 weeks left of the window. What do you reckon are Arsenal's priorities that they want to make happen and could happen?
I think goalkeeper and a creative attacking midfielder. I think they're the two. If they can do any more, then they will. A lot of it depends on who they move on, as I've said. But I think certainly those two positions, they will do all they can to fill them. I mean, you have to get a goalkeeper. You can't go into the season, although it looks like they're going to at the moment, but you can't go into the season or end the transfer window with Alex Runarsson as your backup to Bernd Leno. I mean, you just can't. If Bernd Leno got injured, that would be a catastrophe at this stage. We've seen that Runarsson isn't good enough, so they will sign a goalkeeper. It would be a sackable offence if they didn't. And attack midfielder, I think that's where most of the money is going to go. Will be.
I know you say sackable there. A lot of fans think that Mikel Arteta is very sackable.
Is
there any pressure? Yeah, is there any real pressure on his shoulders right now going into the season? Any targets that Arsenal have set out for him?
Absolutely. No, targets wise, I don't know if they've set a target to him and said you have to hit this spot. But I mean, if he has another season like they've had, then he's got. For me, he'll have to end up getting sacked. I don't think you can. You can't finish 3 seasons in a row at Arsenal and expect to keep the job. If that happens, then you go. You're not going to sit here and say he gets sacked if they're not top 4, because Arsenal are so far off being top 4 at the moment, and how strong the top 4 are now and what they're doing in the transfer market. It's going to be virtually impossible for Arsenal to break into that this season. But you've got to get yourself back in the top 6 and get yourself back in Europe. And if you don't, for me, then a change has to come, because he's had long enough now. I gave him some leeway last season. That was his first full season. The second half of the season, we saw signs of progress, no doubt about that. The results told their own story, but now this is massive for Arteta. If it goes wrong this season, if it looks like they're tanking towards a mid-table finish, then they have to pull the trigger and try something new. You can't carry on with this process for just indefinitely and hope it's going to see results. You've got to actually see those results. And I don't think it's just Arteta as well. I think Edu's under massive pressure. If the squad remains kind of like it is now at the end of this transfer window, then you have to look at it and say Edu failed completely, because it's not been a good transfer window for Arsenal so far. It's got the potential to be if they go and get another couple of players in the next couple of weeks, but if not, then Edu's got to be on the chopping board, and so is Mikel Arteta for me. This is huge this season for those two. Absolutely huge, because there's big question marks about them. And I like Mikel, but results don't lie, and he's finished 8th 2 seasons in a row now. And so if you're heading for another one of those seasons, then I'm sorry, it's time to go.
There you go. Charles has said it all there. Thank you very much for coming on your boys' channel. I really do appreciate this. As I said, if you want to follow Charles on his Twitter page or his YouTube channel, the links will be down below in the description. But Charles, thank you very much, and I guess we'll see you next time potentially.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Enjoyed it.
So there you guys go. That is the video around there. I hope you guys have enjoyed. A gargantuan shout out to Mr. Charles Watt for coming on your boys' channel. And as per, if you have enjoyed, make sure to go down there and smash a like on the video. And while you're down there, please do consider subscribing to the boys' channel. If you want to follow your boy on them social medias, then the links will be down below in the description. And that wraps up a special episode of the Transfers FC. And now Arsenal, you guys are on the clock. 3 weeks left in the window. Can you guys guys deliver, we are going to have to wait and see. But until then, I will see you guys next time in a bit.